The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
So welcome to another episode of the Icons of Real Estate podcast, where we highlight top professionals who are making waves in the industry. I'm your host, Karen Robertson. Today, we're joined by Gettys Glaze. Now, he's a former pro baseball player drafted by the Boston Red Sox. Gettys transitioned into real estate, launching Sandlapper Real Estate Group and closing over 400 properties with nearly $100 million in sales. He is known for his leadership, community impact. He's a standout in Charleston's market. So let's dive into his journey and success strategies. So welcome to the show, Gettys.
Well, thanks for having me, Karen. Looking forward to it. Should be
fun.
So
let's have some fun. Let's start with your background. I mean, you've had a successful career in professional baseball. So what inspired you to transition into real estate?
Well, my first real exposure to real estate was when I got out of playing baseball and went to work for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and I was handling real estate advertising. Oh. And my son was born up there in Milwaukee. He's a cheesehead. And so my wife and I decided to move back closer to home, and I got the same job in Charleston. So I started calling on real estate companies and helping them with their advertising, just agent advertising and development advertising and that kind of thing. And that's kind of what my first exposure was to it. I just realized, I mean, it was back when I got into it in 2000, it was a primarily female-driven industry, mostly, housewives and that kind of thing. And I was a young 28, 29-year-old guy, had 2 kids at home. So I looked to do things a little differently and be a little bit more aggressive and leverage my social capital in town with the things that I'd done in athletics. So that's kind of how I've realized, I was like, I met a bunch of great people when I was calling on them. And I said, there's not a heck of a lot of competition out there that I thought that I could, move my way up pretty quickly. That was that was kind of the vision, but this business is hard, and it took a lot of, it's just a difficult business to kind of get started. And that's one of the things for new agents. It's just hard, and so yes. So it just took me a while to kind of get cranked up.
So you said you've come from a background in marketing and publishing. So those skills you've brought into this, and in what way do you think that has helped you separate you from the marketplace?
Well, when I first got cranked up, the agents weren't really doing a whole lot of like self-promotion type things. It was all just driven by listing advertising and that kind of thing. So, I started really, database marketing really was kind of my forte. I would email out my listings to the realtors in the area. And it was kind of funny because they were like, learn how to use the MLS. And I'm like, okay, I know how to use the MLS. It was dial up still back in that time. So I was trying to get more exposure from my properties and using database marketing, which really is kind of how it kind of transitioned into, how I do business today. It's really, that's the focus of it, making sure your database is really clean and, you follow up with your people and your past clients. That's critical.
And it's about branding yourself. Look, Gettys Glaze. That's a pretty unique name. And I know that you've got a story behind that.
I do have a story behind that. So I'm the youngest of 3 boys. We all played college sports. My mom and dad got my name from my father played football at Clemson. So his best friend was the quarterback. His name was Joe Anderson. Joe had a brother named Gettys, played on Bonanza way back in the day. and never met the gentleman, but he was my namesake. So
Brilliant.
when I got drafted in 1992 by the Red Sox, Playboy came out with an all-name team, and I was the right-handed pitcher named to the all-name team in Playboy. And like I said, that was the only issue my mom ever got to see. So
Fantastic. Well, I
it's
mean, but see, it is real estate now, these days, especially, is all about branding yourself. Now, you quickly became one of the top producers and later built Sandlapper Real Estate Group. What was the biggest lesson that you learned from launching your own firm?
Well, I would say that bigger's not always better. That was probably the biggest lesson. I always had this vision of how I wanted the company to look like and run, and it was mainly almost like a professional sports team. I wanted high caliber professional agents that were high producing, that would do the right kind of business, that would be an example of how I like to do business. And we grew it to over 90 agents as an independent. Now that was a stressful time because that was right before the recession hit and the banks closed in 2008. Luckily, I was able to sell it to Coldwell Banker in 2008. But we had some great runs. I mean, it was a good experience. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't going through that. I mean, that failure, really. I mean, that's what it was, because I'd kind of wanted to model the company how my brain thought about real estate. And we created a search tool way back in like 2005, 2006 for the internet. We called it searchlikeagents.com, and we promoted it on billboards and we were dropping cookies on the consumers that were coming into search, and then we were scrubbing the leads and handing them off to the agents way before it was cool, like the boom towns of the world. So we did 600,000 in GCI in 2006 through the internet. And it was just a little bit before its time. I had this gentleman that did some internet work for Jeffrey Gitomer on the Little Red Book of Selling. His name is Sutton Yamanashi, still friends with him today. He created this beautiful CRM website for us where people could search and we could track it all. So it was great. And then when I sold the company to Coldwell Banker, they didn't want to use the technology, which was really ahead of its time. And
Wow.
so when I got back into sales in 2009, I kind of got back down to basics. I hired a coach. Andrew Lacey is his name. He's kind of well known around this area, just to really kind of get me back focused on what it took to get back to producing after I had kind of run my own company and been in management for Coldwell Banker for a year. And then in 2009, I'm like, I got young kids. They're going to go to college. I need to go out and make some money. And so I really got focused on that in 2009, and I've been selling ever since.
And so how have things changed? Like a lot of changes. You were ahead of the time back then. So what is it that you're doing differently to other realtors that has made you be such a success?
Well, we do have a small team. I created a small team again. So when I got back into sales in 2009, it was just me and my business partner, and we brought on a full-time assistant, kind of closing coordinator. I will say that I was probably one of the first ones using a closing coordinator back in 2001 and 2. Maybe 2003, I hired a full-time closing coordinator, and that was well before anybody was using that type of person in their business. So now, my assistant's been with me for 16 years. She knows more about real estate than most agents in this town. I mean, she runs the business for the most part, the back end part of it. So that, I would say that is a huge lesson for agents is, that's why their income goes up and down a lot, because they get so focused on closing activities rather than income producing activities. And I just learned early on that I needed to delegate that part of it to somebody that could handle the closing transaction while I could go out there and produce more business.
And that's the way to scale, isn't it? And what do you think sort of stops other realtors from taking that next step? Because there's only, like you say, there's only so much you can do. There's only so many hours in each day. And then if you're focusing on that, you're taking the eye off the ball of actually going out and doing what you do best, which is selling houses. What do you think is sort of holding realtors back from taking that next level?
I think it's a matter of control. They have a hard time letting go of control of their deals because it's, a lot of agents. I mean, the average agent back when I was starting was they were doing 8 deals a year. So they were
Mm,
holding so tightly onto their deals, they didn't want to lose them for fear of that income coming in 30 to 60 days. Where
hmm
my mentality was different. I was like, I'd rather get 8 or 10 under contract. And if I only close 80% of those, then I'm always out there trying to put more deals in the pipeline. And I would prefer to have somebody that can handle that and, it's in front of their computer all day. Now, I'm not in front of my
mm,
computer all day. I'm going to be in front of clients. So, or spending time with my family. And that was one of the really kind of key things um, where I felt like the closing coordinator was big, was the control. And a lot of
mm,
people have a hard time letting go of that control.
mm. But it's the only way to move. So, look, you're very involved with the community. In fact, your motto I hear is "We are South Carolina." Speaks to your deep connection with the community. And how has that shaped your approach to real estate and building client relationships?
Well, my father did good business here, really starting in 1970. He was from the area. We've always had a really good name in town. He did good business with people that are still living. My dad passed 5 years ago, but there's still guys that he did business with and women that are still living that he's had a great reputation. He did business the right way. He was honest with his clients. He was loyal to his friends and clients. And I just really kind of took that mantra on. Um, that's probably one of my best attributes I get from him is his loyalty to his friends and family and to his clients. And I expect the same in return. I get disappointed a lot because that's not, it's hard. But I would say that is probably the biggest thing is me leveraging what he built and did over his career to what I've done the last 25 years in town. Just because we've been in this town for a long time, and like I said, we've had a good reputation. We've done good business, and those are the things I'm trying to pass along to my son, and he understands that. He gets it. He sees it. So that's one of
Fantastic.
the things. It's most people had to do that. They had to build it. Well, it was already there for me to kind of just take it and grow it more than.
Mm. And focus on that, but it's all about the building of the relationship. So you've already got that. You're very involved with the community. So, how have things been for you? Like everybody said last year was a little bit weird. But what was it like for you? How many transactions did you do last year compared to maybe a quote unquote a normal year?
Well, actually, last year was my best year ever in the business,
Ah, there
ever.
you go.
And I'll tell you why, Karen. It was I think one of my best strengths is to be able to. I was a catcher in college before I got drafted as a pitcher. So, from a catcher's mentality, you always got to be thinking a pitch or two ahead of where the game's going to go. And that's the way my brain always has worked is like, I can see kind of where things are going. Unfortunately, I couldn't see where things were going in '08, but now got into some building and development type stuff about 5 years ago when the market changed with COVID. There was no inventory. So we've started building some houses and bringing in some investors and that kind of thing, which helps because if there's no inventory, you create your own inventory.
hmm
Um, so with all the other stuff, the regular business, the regular client driven business was still there. And then the development, small little development business that started to take off. And that's been good. That I think that's what I probably attribute the last few years to. So that's where I'm kind of transitioning into a little bit more of that part of the business. And I'm moving my son into more of the client facing business where he can handle the buyers and I help him on the back end with the buyers. and I handle the listings, and he kind of helps me on the back end of the listings. So it seems to be working out pretty well.
So what's next then? What's so you're moving into that way? Anything else coming up in 2025?
Well, I mean, again, we've just kind of grown that building and development side of what we've been doing. And that's I see with the market changing, the agent count is probably going to go down again. I've seen the cycle a couple times now. So that means that people just need more and more experience, really, because 4 and 5 years ago, people can put a sign out in the yard that had multiple offers, and they didn't really have to do much. Now it's gotten back to where inventory levels are up, interest rates are a little bit higher up, and people just need experienced help. And that's where, obviously I've been doing this business a long time, and everybody thinks that real estate people they can do all the same things. Well, you wouldn't hire a doctor that did 5 surgeries when you've done a doctor that has 1,000 surgeries. So, that's where I think that's where it's going to lead to, is that people just need more and more experienced help in the next 4 to 5 years. Perfect. And I'm still young. I'm only 54, so I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm not retiring.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. So watch this space. So finally, look, because here at Icons, we're not just a podcast, we're the #1 real estate podcast network. And we're passionate about making podcasting accessible to everybody involved in the business of real estate, because it's a great way to grow your sphere of influence. It's a great way to show up as your authentic self, right? People buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So Gettys, if you had your own podcast, what do you think you'd call it? Come up with a name.
Ooh, I would not name it this, but I would name my boat Glazed and Confused, but that's not a good topic.
Glazed and Confused.
Glazed and Confused.
Well, it could work, because a lot of people could be confused about the nature of real estate, and you're setting it straight. So play on words.
I've always been one. I'm a team player. I'm always been athletically, played on teams. So I really don't want to make it about. I wouldn't want to make it about myself. So I would probably figure out a name that would incorporate somehow my last name, not so much my first name. I know that's the unique part of my name, but again, I would leverage that last name to something that I could capitalize on, and
could pass down to your son too. Fantastic.
Exactly. Obviously the succession plan and this business is difficult, because what are you really selling? At the end of the day, you're selling yourself, and the only way to do that is to duplicate yourself through people. And what better way to do that is than somebody that I've raised, and he's seen me do this business for the last 25 years. So
perfect.
That's good.
And finally, so if anybody wants to reach out, if they're looking to buy or sell, how do they reach you? Where do they find you?
They can find me at thesandlappergroup.com, or call us at 843-452-6998. That's my cell. That'd be the best way to do it. They can also find us on Instagram and Facebook and all those other places that my son has pushed for us, which is good.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm one, but he's really using those technologies to reach. He's 29, so he's trying to reach that younger crowd of, reels and video and that kind of thing. So
perfect. Well, Gettys, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really fun speaking with you and hearing about your journey. And to the listeners, I'll be back next time with the Icons of Real Estate. Goodbye for now.